in the vise, we've got a love spoon ready to go. Probably going to be a bit of a shorter presentation today, live stream. But what we're looking at mainly, we've got Thomas the Woodcarver. Evening, Thomas the Woodcarver.
Evening.
Yeah, what we're looking at, just going to check out my, yeah, that's all okay. What we're looking at is lime, because I noticed from different areas of social media that there's a lot of wood carving going on, and the main wood that everyone uses, and definitely the one that people suggest for beginners, is lime. So what we're going to do is to give a slightly different angle on it, because it is a wood that we use, but it's not really one of the main ones that we use, and there are sort of reasons for that then. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to demonstrate carving it. Basically, it is an easy carving wood, but the reason we don't use a huge amount of it is a couple of things. Firstly, a lot of people then are sort of seeking it out. I think it is one, I'm not sure if it sort of goes back to Grinding Gibbons, where he used a lot of lime, and it is easy carving wood. And it is one then that we would suggest for people that are learning, for beginners especially. But I don't know whether it comes across on the camera. I think it should do. It's not the most interesting of woods when it comes to the appearance. And for us then, because we're sort of doing this as our day job, the appearance of whatever you're doing, it's an important thing. And I think even, you know, whatever level that you're carving at, I think the slight lack of character in the wood, it is its sort of weakness, really, isn't it?
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
It's the character of the wood.
So,
and the lack of character within lime.
So I think your carving has got to be really spot on, and you've very much got to be sort of exceptional in your carving, to compensate really for the lack of interest in the wood. And so what I'm going to do to sort of highlight this, you can see just in the side of the shot there, I got another spoon, and this is in juniper. And I think anybody who is interested, as I would have thought you all would be, you know, for anyone watching this sort of video, with the juniper, you have a lot more character in the wood. And the advantage of that then is the wood really is in some ways, would you call it the star of the show? I think that would be a fair way to describe it, isn't it? You know, as a wood carver, the wood should really come first. Is that fair enough?
Yeah. I
think if you're sort of seeing your work and seeing your carving, that it's going to sort of be the star of the show in many ways. I personally, okay, you know, we've all got different views and different attitudes, but basically, I would hope then that the wood is going to be the sort of star of the show. So if you've got a wood that, you know, you've got a piece of timber that's really got a lot of character in it, that's sort of a huge advantage before you start. And then the actual carving, in some ways, the carving sort of takes a secondary role. I tell you what's going to help us here as well. Do you want to get some shellac? Because that'll really highlight what the sort of whole point of this video and the point we're getting at. So we're not sort of saying that you don't have to carve to a certain level. Of course you have. You've got to have a sort of certain standard to your work. But having a nice timber can make a huge difference. And one thing then that I notice, we use all sorts of different social media, things like, you know, everything from Reddit to Facebook, that sort of thing. I don't see a lot of people suggesting the use of other timbers and experimenting with other timbers. It seems to be very much that lime, which I know in America you refer to, hello anyone if you're in America, you refer to as basswood. That is very much seen as the woodcarvers would. And for instance, I mean, the history of it here in the UK, before Grinling Gibbons, anyone who doesn't know, a very famous sort of historical woodcarver, a lot of the stately homes you have his carvings, Grinling Gibbons and his sort of gang, they used a lot of lime to do their carvings from. And so I think from there it sort of continued. But like the medieval carvers, they used to use a lot of oak. And I would sort of lean myself more towards the medieval carvers approach, because oak has got that character in the grain. You've got that medullary ray. So you've got that interest.
It does depend a lot as well on what you're actually carving.
I was going to say it's the type of carving you're doing. Yeah, because, you know, I can understand some of the sort of sculptures you don't want to sort of detract from what you're doing with a more sort of more interest in the wood. But personally, I do feel if you've got and I know where you're coming from as well, that oak can be difficult then for certain jobs.
Well, no, I mean if you're doing church carvings, often today you're matching in with sort of
with what is already
surrounds then, you know.
That's right.
So, you know, oak is quite an acceptable. It's a nice, it's a mellow sort of colours. It's got character, and you know we're concentrating mainly on love spoons.
Yeah, and it's really interesting actually, because I see it then through our social media. If we put a post up with a spoon that's been carved in lime, maybe, if it's sort of a very intricate carving, it gets a fair bit of interest. But for anybody who is interested then in the sort of commercial side of wood carving, we always get a much bigger reaction from people if we post a love spoon that's been carved in something like juniper, yew and laburnum, things like that. Now, a couple of those that I've mentioned, they can be a little bit more challenging to work with. The yew and the laburnum, especially laburnum, sorry, not laburnum. They can be a lot more challenging to work in. But they do finish beautifully. And I always sort of think with laburnum, it is worth spending that extra time working with it because of the finish and the character and the colours that you get. And to give you a little insight then, quite often if I carve a spoon, and it's in laburnum or yew, I will put a little bit